One, two, one, two. Can you hear it? Okay. Can I start? It's nice that I see it over there, but I don't see it on the TV.
It's ready?
I will not. So what? Okay. Was too fast. I just wanted to be on time, you know. So I was like rushing with that. Yeah. So that's the introduction.
Ready? Yeah. Right now? Okay. Okay, we move on to blind signing DeFi mass adoption blocker with Radek Svarz.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Hi, thanks for the intro. And now I don't see anything. Yeah, that's little blind signing. I see like black or white TV now. Anyway, and I don't even see the people over here. Yeah. Hello, my name is Radek Svarz. Please, can you put up the presentation now? And I've been working for quite a long time in the traditional finance banking industry, basically. Then I switched to crypto and to DeFi a couple of years ago. And one of my tasks is this, what we call the Opus Finance. That's the approach to make the decentralized finance accessible and usable for the regular people, so non-crypto natives, I would call. And we do have a problem with that. So I wanted to present to you some of the problems which we are dealing with, and what are really crucial problems to improve the adoption towards the next wave of the users. The blind signing. Who is aware of this phenomenon of the blind signing? Please raise your hands. So a few people over here. Okay, so I do run a few more things besides that. Then you can read it afterwards. So there's like smart contracts development meetup over here and so on, and the check stablecoin preparation or implementation. But let's talk about the blind signing now. Let's assume the hardware wallets. Who uses Trezor? That's a question over here. A couple of folks. Ledger? Many more. Who uses Ledger even after when they shut into their leg? No? Still few. Keystone? No one? Anything else like paper wallet or something else? Yeah, good. The beer wallet. Okay. So when you think about the user, and let's say the regular folk, that user, she has the intention, right, to do something. So basically, she interacts with the decentralized application. She interacts with the wallet, and the interaction is used in order to fulfill some intention. And when she signs the hardware wallet, when she literally clicks on the button, it means the commitment. It means the commitment by signature, by basically clicking. I do remember from the 90s, at that time, there was a nice abbreviation which was called WYSIWYG. Are there any folks who remember that, what it means? Yeah, a few. For those who do not mean, I rephrase it a little bit. What we could say is, what you sign is what you get, right? And if we translate it into some like legal wording, when we are interacting with the smart contracts, we can say, by signing the transaction, user expressly acknowledges and agrees that she understands what she is signing. That's like legal blah, blah, what you typically have in some contracts, like the legal contracts, and it's applicable for the smart contracts as well. So signing acknowledges that understands. You know, that's what you see on the Trezor device. What you see on the devices when you are interacting with the smart contracts, and it's not a pure like transfer function, but you do like lending, whatever else, and you see the bytecodes or some bytes there. So if we a little bit elaborate that, because we are quite experts over here, there is the intention. Do I have like laser? No. Okay, on the left there is the intention. The user interacts typically with some web application. So she has to go into some domain basically, of the application. Then there is some front end of the application. Then there is the interface like MetaMask or some other awesome wallets which are presented over here, which is like a signing interface. And typically, if the user is a little bit more like secure-wise smart, and then she has the hardware wallet, where actually there is that commitment by signature, and then it is being propagated to the contract. So yeah, we are quite aware of that, but there are those different parts and pieces where something can go wrong or misused. The question is, can I trust this as the user? All those pieces. And the experience is that there are many attack vectors on these particular pieces. I have listed them over here. We will not talk, we don't have the time now to talk about those, but those are regular attack vectors which happened already towards those particular pieces which we need to have in order to have user experience on top of DeFi. In fact, when I talk the attack vectors, then there is the attacker. And the attacker, his ultimate goal is to steal some assets. It can be some, I don't know, ERC20 tokens, it can be NFTs, whatever. The effects typically of the blind signature, meaning that the user doesn't know what she's signing, just clicks yes, I agree, means that there could be like forged recipient. It's quite common, and instead of sending it to his friends over there, it's being sent and routed somewhere else. Then there could be a forged contract, which is also happening. So instead of interacting with the Uniswap contracts, I would be rather interacting with some clone of that, but a little bit modified, adjusted, in order to have something better for the attacker. Or, which is very commonly typical, forged approvals or allowances to steal something later. Typically, some campaign over there are nice new NFTs. You agree to claim the NFT, and including in that, there is the approval on actually retrieve whatever you have there in USDC. We can give you some examples, just like Radek one in the past, the Kerberos swap, that was 265K, and that was the malicious JavaScript injection into the front-end application. They misused basically the marketing part of that, because they needed to use the Google Tag Manager to do some, marketing stuff, and the script in that was actually adjusted for the misuser. The result is the forged allowance. So they were then able to retrieve some of the assets from the user. A curve, 612K. This was a little bit more complicated, but it was like a strange situation when the attacker called on the support of the GoDaddy or someone, or Namecheap or something. So I don't know now exactly, but basically using some sort of the social engineering, they were able to get over the administration rights of the DNS. So they then created the different applications somewhere else, targeted with the same domain, and created a lookalike site, created a phishing contract, and the result was the forged contract and forged allowance, resulting in 612K of the users' lost amounts. The clay swap, that was almost 1.5 million. It was even more technically or engineering difficult, because they used a specific technique of the network rerouting using the BGP hijacking. But the result is the same forged contract and forged allowance. The question is, what can users do, and what we as the industry can do with that? The first thing is to understand what me as the user, what I am signing, right? So if I would rephrase that abbreviation, we could say the WYSIWYG means what you sign is what you get, right? That's what we discussed. And one of the way on how to understand is that I do have a support in the wallets, either in the software wallets, but also in the hardware wallets. So on those devices, that I do literally know that the particular transaction does something which I intended to do. The Keystone is a good example that it does something regarding that. So comparing in contrast to Ledger or Trezor or the other devices we know. But there could be also the other approach, which started to be used now, and that's to predict the future upfront. So basically to know upfront the outcome of the transaction. where I literally know what I sign is what I get as the outcome. Yeah, we as the developers, we use something like this, the Tenderly. Who uses Tenderly over here? For its work? Yeah, a couple of people. Yeah, you know how it works, right? So we do the simulation and we know exactly what will happen. It's like 100% sure what's the outcome. We know it. Can we ask the user to use that? You know, I doubt that. You know, it's for the tech savvy. We could teach a few people to just run the simulation. Yeah. So there are some better approaches. One is the file extension, which controls the transactions initiation towards the MetaMask. So aside of the MetaMask, the file will pop up and say, okay, you're fine. If you're on Apple's Finance, then you are transferring some or exchanging from ETH to USDC. These are the outcomes. Or warning, besides these outcomes, you will also lose something else. So that's fire. Then some of the wallets finally are getting that and trying to protect the user or give him the insight. So the Rapid wallet is a good example, which like does the simulation and it makes it clear that the user will receive the 400 liquidity USD. I do know, and I talked to the wallet provider over, in the sponsor area, and they are also doing some simulation. So those are these approaches, and then we have a third approach. That's the account abstraction. This gives the promise that we will be able to make the usage of the smart contracts safer, easier, and safer for the users. So basically what MetaMask is promising, okay, there will be a fraud monitoring service. We will use those, I forgot, those plugins or those extensions, right? And if there is something, if there is any intention, then there will be like checks. And based on that, the MetaMask will like pop up warning, look, this is wrong, be careful. But my question is whether we essentially like postpone that signing, that commitment. The user still has to do some commitment somewhere, right? So even with the account abstraction, me as the user, I will have to sign something somewhere. Potentially, I will not do the signing with the hardware wallet. I could do it with some social account or single sign-on of the Google and so on. But I will have to commit myself into that intention. So I believe that there will be a new and also old Web2 ways to attack the user for these interactions. I guess and estimate that in the future we will see some of those situations which will happen. They will mostly happen like outside of what we are creating for the account abstraction. But these are still valid. If I go to some application and so on. So we as the industry will need to deal with that. This is the intro into the blind signing. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, if you have questions and if there is a time, let's do that.
So this is an amazing talk, and thank you very much. The array of the attack vectors is daunting, right? And this is a technical audience. You're a technical person. That's like an unbelievably wide attack surface that keeps on getting wider. What do you think is the trend for the next 2 or 3 years? Just more scams, more thefts, and how effective do you think your solutions and these approaches to fight this can be?
So can you repeat that?
So the question is, do you think the situation is getting worse? Are there going to be more attacks, even more sophisticated attacks? And how effective do you think you will be and your solution in preventing these attacks?
I think I'm not able to show the slide now anymore, but if you remember the parts, I think we'll be able to like make it safer for some of the parts. So some of the attack vectors we will be able to address with what we are preparing, what we are doing. But there will be new attack vectors which we are not used to deal with yet. So it will like shift. I have like a little bit feeling that it will like broaden. There will be more attack vectors as such than what we know. But quite a lot of those attack vectors are literally like the Web2 based. You know, that we as we are trying to prepare and doing like the decentralized solutions, basically, there are still the most projects are actually doing it in the way of the Web2 approach. So all those attacks of the Web2 approaches are valid there, basically, for the social engineering, for the hijacking and so on. So yeah, it will shift and it will potentially broaden somewhere. And it will be up to us. We also discussed during the East Bernardo privacy and security hackathon, we discussed the options to enable the wallets to like cross-check the calling intention of what the user is interactive in, and having like using DNS to have like signed some fingerprints of what contracts we want to deal with. So there are a little bit more ways on how to elaborate this, but I literally believe when you see the whole space of those attack vectors, that we need to address one by one and to try to address them. Okay, any other question? Yeah? No. So thank you for your attention. And I'll be walking around here and also during the Prague, so if you want to discuss it more, then you are welcome for any of those topics which I presented there. The development of the smart contracts, whatever, the Opus Finance, the blind signing, the trying to give the adoption towards the regular folks. Thank you.